Don't say this in your next job interview because it could cost you that offer. And of course, I don't want that for you. That's why you're tuning in. Hey friends, welcome back to the Work Happier podcast with Shodawan, the place to get your questions answered and for me to get you hired, paid, and happier. And as always, if you have a burning question of your own, please send it to us by DM here at Work Happier Pod on Instagram or email us at podcast@workhappier.com and I will feature you in our next episode. So we got this DM from C. Lam and she said, "Hi Show, I'm not sure if you covered this before, but I'm thinking of applying for a new job, and when the HR asks what my previous salary is, do you think it's alright if I fake a higher one?" Ooh, okay. Not sure if they normally require me to provide my previous pay slip or something. Woo, C. Lamb. You know what? I don't blame you for that question because you're already thinking 2 steps ahead, right? Typically, this is what happens. When a recruiter calls you and asks, "Hey, we love your experiences, we love your skills, what's your current salary for this role?" You know why they're asking that question? Is because they want to take whatever that data is and they want to see if their budget aligns with it. So let me give you a live example. Let's say you're currently making $80,000 and their budget is, let's say, $115,000. If you say my current salary is $80,000, they would say, bingo, 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 great. You fit along with our expectations, so I know that if I move you on to the next round, if you get the offer, I know that we'll be able to give you a higher offer than where you're currently at. That's the best case scenario for the recruiter. But why C. Lamb is asking, is it okay for you to fake it? Because let's say she should be paid $80,000, but in reality, her job is only paying her $60,000. So if she goes back to the recruiter and says, "Happy to share, my current salary right now is $60,000. You know what's gonna happen? Same thing. The recruiter will take that information and think, does it fit along with my budget, and move her forward. But here's the kicker, guys. Here's the kicker. Most times, if the recruiter or the hiring manager or the company already knows what you're getting paid, they're thinking in their head, all I need is to give you a 10 to 20% increase off of your current salary. So this is why C. Lamb knows the game and is asking, is it okay if I lie or fake a higher one? And in an ideal world, or in a world where it's all pro candidacy and pro employee, I would say with my career coach hat on and be like, yes, lie. They'll never know. You'll get a higher base. You'll do all this. They'll still get the candidate. It's a win-win, right? But, we're not in an ideal world, my friend. We're not in an employee-centric, always for the win world. There are sometimes repercussions for lying. And I would not feel morally right to give you that advice to tell you to lie so you can get a higher base. But there are other tactics that you can do to do that without lying. Let's first talk about why I don't think lying is the right move. Because there has been times when after you get the offer and everything all signed, the company can ask you for a payslip. They can ask you for proof. That's risk number 1. Right? That's a valid risk right there that happens to a lot of people, is that they get asked for proof. And if you lied, you don't want that to happen to you. Because one little thing and they see the actual numbers, that might be warrant enough for them to tear up the offer that they already gave you. The second risk here with lying, and this goes with all lies, sometimes it's hard to keep track of your own lies. So let's say in this example, instead of saying that I'm currently on 60,000, C. Lamb went and said like, yeah, I'm currently on 90,000. And for another company, she said, oh yeah, I'm on 70,000. And for another company, she said, oh, I'm on 100,000. Right? If you're telling so many different things to different people, sometimes it's hard to keep track of, wait, what number did I say again? What was the offer? So all of this really just goes back to my original point that I don't think it's worth it to lie. And I think it's better for you to do other things instead to raise up your value. What are those things, you might ask? Let me tell you. One of my favorite things to do if a company asks me what my current or previous salary is one of 2 things. The best case scenario, absolute best case scenario, is that they have already told you their budget. So if it's maybe on the job board already, or if the HR told you already, this is something you could say. You could say, well, I took a look at the current job listing and the salary range listed from X to Z is actually pretty aligned with my expectations. So I'd love to see if this is a good fit for both sides before talking numbers. Right? Like you could do that because they are already transparent from the job description that this is the salary range, and instead of telling them what you're currently on, you could just react to that. The second thing is, if maybe it's not listed in the job description, where you could ask the recruiter and ask, happy to talk numbers as we get deeper into the process, but I would love to learn from your side, could you share the budget you have for this role? So the same thing there, right? Now they're giving you the numbers, maybe not from a job description, but from themselves directly, and then you can react to that. So that would be a better alternative than you sharing what your current or previous salary was. But let's say they don't do that. Let's say they don't list the salary on the job description, or they don't tell you in the interview itself what the range is. So naturally, again, a recruiter will call you or have the interview with you and ask you, what's your current salary and what's your expectations? That's when you can say something like this, because it shows them that you've done your research, that you know your market value, and that ideally you want to be paid in this range based off of everything else that you know. So those are just two options there. But one thing I want to call out here, team, is this is not a perfect world, and recruiters aren't perfect either. So sometimes maybe you're catching a recruiter on a bad day and you're using these scripts that I just shared with you. Sometimes the recruiter will just say, no, I want to know your current salary, and we need that information before we proceed to the next round. If that happens, you'll probably feel a certain shock. You'll be like, you'll probably feel that it's completely left field. But that's just sometimes what happens. I could share all these things. You could read every single book about negotiation. I could literally be in your ear and tell you exactly what to say in specific situations. But sometimes the recruiter and the company is playing hardball. And when they're playing hardball and it's a role that you really want, you gotta give them what you want. And if that's the case, then if I was C. Lam, like she said, I would say my current salary is this, but I feel that according to my market value, I do feel like I'm currently underpaid, and my ideal range would be somewhere between X and Z. And that's when you still share with them that your expectations are this. And based off of their reaction, right? If the recruiter is like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I think that totally fits and we're happy to move you on, great, right? But if they're like, ooh, whoa, oof, your expectations are a little, right? You gotta feel their language. You gotta feel their reaction to it. And if it doesn't feel like aligned with what you want, sometimes it just won't work out. The second thing I want to talk about that a lot of people don't talk about is having leverage in your job search is so helpful for you to get another offer. And one of the best options to have sometimes is you staying put in your current job. This is why so many career experts, and me included, we would say that best time to look for a job is when you already have one, because there's no real need for another one. But what I just said was the best case scenario, right? What if you currently don't have a job? Should you lie about it? How do you handle that? I got this DM now from Marku, and this is what he had to say. Hey, Show, I need some advice. I recently left my role at a company I was at for 3 years, and I'm now actively applying. If it's only been 3 weeks and a company asks if I'm still there, should I just say I'm still there? Good question there. That's a really, really good question there, Marku, because I actually don't think this is a complete yes or no. It's actually kind of a little bit more gray area. If you were there for 3 years and you haven't been there for like a year plus, obviously in those cases, you don't say that you're still currently there. But when you've only left after a few weeks, this is a little bit gray area, but I would tell you there's really no right or wrong answer here. I'm okay with you saying that you currently are there and you're actively looking for something else. Like, I'm okay with you because, again, it's only been a few weeks. I'm also okay with you doing the whole, like, I recently left and I took a break for a few weeks and I'm excited about the next opportunity and this seems like a great opportunity. All right? I'm also okay with that route. The reason why this is a little bit more gray area is because, sometimes having a current job, like I said, does help your chances. It's all about how you position yourself. It's all about the story. Personally, if it was me, I would probably tell them, no, I recently left a few weeks ago, and the reasons I left was I left for XYZ reasons. Had a great time there, really enjoyed my experience, but what I'm really looking for is ABC, and this role aligns with the things in ABC. Like something along those lines, right? And maybe a better script would also be here that you can also say that can showcase that you're not currently at this company anymore, but you're really drawn to this new opportunity, and this is it's for opportunities like these is why you think a better opportunity was better for you in the first place. But recruiters are trained to look for candidates that can do the job right now. And sometimes a fear that some companies have is that if you've been out of the game for too long, and too long can vary per company, right? Too long for a few companies can be a few months. Too long for a few companies can be a few years. You just never know. But one of their fears is if you've been out of the game for too long, how long will it take to train you? Do you still have the relevant skills that are necessary for the role for this year? Are you too senior and out of touch with what's working right now versus our current team and meshing with our current team. So now we talked about salary, we talked about career gaps. What about referrals? What about references? What about knowing someone at the company? Does it hurt? Does it help? Does it hugely help? I got this DM from Arjun that I thought was interesting question about referrals and why companies ask if you have a referral. So let's go right into it. So Arjun asked, hey Sho, I have a question for you. If a recruiter asks me whether I know anybody from their organization before my interview, is it a wise decision to say yes or no, even though I do know a person there? Okay. This is an interesting question here. Because I'll be honest, Arjun, or anybody else who's going through this, it's actually very rare for a recruiter to ask you, or anybody in the company to ask you directly, do you know anybody here? A referral, or you name dropping someone, or you saying that you know about this company from XYZ friend. It just gives the recruiter or hiring manager a little bit proof that like, hey, if so-and-so has referred this person and has vouched for this person, then I should also take this candidacy a little bit more serious, and they might be a good fit here as well. Right? That's what the recruiter is thinking, especially when they get a referral. So if a recruiter does ask you that question, what's the right answer here? To be honest, it's the same thing that I've kind of said the last two answers. Just be honest. Just be honest. Because this could totally bite your ass if you lie and say, yeah, I know Tom from marketing, and Tom is great, and he raves about the company, and he told me about to apply, and there's no Tom in marketing, or they don't have a marketing department. That's a terrible look. What you don't want to do is you don't want to name drop a person just to name drop, right? Like, at the end of the day, the purpose of a referral, or you saying that you know someone, or you hearing good things about this company, it should tell the interviewer, the HR manager or the hiring manager, whoever you're meeting, it should make them feel good. Don't just say, yeah, I know Tom and he told me to apply. Right? Say, I know Tom and we go way back. We used to work at XYZ company together, and Tom was working on this project and I was working on this project. And I know something about Tom. Tom doesn't stay at a company if he doesn't love it. And the fact that he's been here for 5 years just goes to show how great your culture is. So let's recap what we just learned today. When they ask you about your previous salary, what should you do? In my opinion, don't lie. I think, again, best case scenario is that they share it with you first. So that's when you can ask about the budget if they don't already list it on the job description. But don't lie, right? If they don't give you the budget, that's when you can share your expectations and share your market research and share your skills and value. And the third option is if they push back and they really want an answer, just tell them and it's okay. The next question was, what if you're not currently employed? What should you say? Same thing that I said earlier. Sometimes just be honest. Just be honest. I think for the case that we read, it was only a few weeks. So I think that's a little bit more gray area. You can say yes, you can say no. But at the end of the day, if it's only been a few weeks, if it's only been a few months since you last worked, I still think the best case here is honesty. If it's been an extended period of time that you haven't worked, you have to come up with skills, experiences, and projects that you have been doing in that time off to showcase that, again, you can be at that seamless hire they're looking for. The last one was about referrals. Is it good to have a referral? Should you say you have a referral? Should you say that you know someone who works there? It all comes back down to tell the truth. Don't lie. If you have someone who works there, great, share it. But don't just share it and say, I know so-and-so, but share how you know them, share some background story, tell what they have said about this company, encourage you to apply. That does help you just build a little bit more relatability with the interviewer. So these scripts all around me, please use them as inspiration to craft your own stories and to craft your own scripts that's going to help you seal the deal of why you're the right candidate for this role. So that wraps up our episode of Work Happier Podcast with Sho Dewan. As always, stay confident, keep working on the things that you want to work on, and as always, keep working happier. All right? I'll see you next week, my friend. Bye.